Hello, let's talk today about 7 personality characteristics that are often seen in husbands who have cheated or any spouse who often engages in betrayal. So, I'm Beth Miller. I'm a marriage coach. I am the founder of the Marriage Saver program at Solify Wellness, and I want to dive into 7 personality characteristics of a cheating spouse. And these personality characteristics are often contributing to them engaging in an affair. They are significant root causes for why they engage in this betrayal. And by understanding the psychology, sometimes we can get an insight as to why it's happening. So often the clients I work with, they know it's not about me, but what's going on with them. I want to understand the why so I can see how we can prevent this from happening again. So anyway, if you want more details on this, feel free to send me a DM or comment below, and we can get you some more details on how to navigate healing your marriage, healing yourself when it comes to betrayal. We have a very proven method that we're happy to share more with you. All right, so let's get started. First one, all right, low self-esteem. It's not always evident. Like, we can see our partners and we can see how they seem confident, they seem very much together, but a lot of times there's this low self-esteem, this underlying sense of needing validation, right? This sense of like, you know what, it feels really, really good to get attention. I often will hear men say, you know what, I didn't think someone like that would really like me, or I didn't think someone would be interested in me. And they kind of get swept away in that feeling of getting that validation, getting that attention. So there's often this like insecurity and this low self-worth. And so they go outside the marriage and they seek that. It's easy to get that validation. And that's a whole nother conversation, but the person who's giving them that validation, why they are engaging in this behavior as well, especially if they know it's a married man. So it gives them this temporary boost. It boosts that ego, the low self-esteem that they have. So they're getting it from a false place. Ideally, we need to have our self-esteem from inside. It's an inside job. We want to know we're worthy. We want to know that we're enough. We don't need to go elsewhere to get it. And sometimes this can come from like not having been told that they were good enough or smart enough or getting that praise as a child. And so they've been probably going for a long time without having this validation. But the deepest part of this is they may not believe it's true. They may not believe that they are a good guy or a good husband or good at this. Because so often we can tell someone, I love you, I love you, I love you. But if they don't truly love themselves, they don't really hear that you love them. They hear the words, but they don't adopt it. If I'm like, you're amazing, you're so good at X, Y, Z. But if they don't believe they're good at X, Y, Z, they're not really going to truly adopt that. They need to know that they are worthy, that they are validated, they can validate themselves. All right, that's number 1. Let's get into number 2. Number 2 is, a lot of sadness, a lot of pain, a lot of hurt. And this can come from present. So it could just be they've kind of hit a crisis in their life. That could be health, financial. It could be financial, like I just said, financial, like the wealth piece, or it could be something within their relationship. It could be something with their family, mental health, or physical, or a death in the family. So there's sometimes current pain, job loss, like sadness that's happening. But it also can be from their past. It can be from their childhood. It's just like caught up. They are exhausted. Their cup is so full that they can't run from it anymore. They can't suppress it anymore. So often there's this deep-seated, like, not happy. They're not happy. They're not proud of themselves, and they are going elsewhere to find this, like, almost like a drug. They get this like happy endorphins when they go and have this temporary, potentially pleasure or connection with someone, and then they're kind of left with unhappy. And so there's this feeling of like just needing to find the happy pill, and they're not looking in the right spot. So we have number 1, low self-esteem. With that low self-esteem, there might be some negative self-image there. With the sadness and hurt, there could also be fear of rejection. I've worked with couples who the wife was going through a lot, maybe just had a baby or going through the death of a family member, and they're really grieving and they're not fully connected to their partner. Their partner's like craving, needing this attention, and they feel almost rejected. They feel like, they're not good enough or not happy because their spouse is almost like withdrawing temporarily because of the crisis they're going through in their life. All right, number 3, lack of emotional intelligence. Okay, this one, like if you've grown up in a household where you've never talked about feelings, they're just pushed down, like everything's fine, like don't worry about that, toughen up. They don't have the vocabulary to even express their feelings. They may not even know what it feels like, or they may sense that there's a discomfort in their body. They can't name it, but they like just push it down. They just plow through. They have this like stuffing the feelings, can't share their feelings because they may not even be able to identify it. Often the only emotion they can really identify is anger. Anger they've seen other males in their life really use anger. They've seen sadness, but those are kind of the biggest vocabulary they have when it comes to sadness, anger. They can really, really understand anger. Anger is a secondary emotion. Typically, there's something behind it, often sadness, embarrassment, shame, guilt, resentment. There's other stuff behind it. So this lack of emotional intelligence, they don't have the ability to really express their feelings. They can't get vulnerable. They don't get deeply emotional, right? It's seen maybe as a form of weakness, which means they can't form really deep connections with people because they're not being vulnerable. They're not sharing their true self and their emotions with people. They're kind of maybe pushing things along and just going with it. Also, that means they can't process trauma. I was just talking about a moment ago being sad, pain, hurt, whether it's past and present. They're not processing that. It's going in them, like somewhere within them they have all these feelings. Okay, so we have low self-esteem. We have some sort of happiness, lack of happiness, pain, hurt. Then we have number 3. Another personality characteristic is lack of emotional intelligence. Number 4, avoidant. Oh, avoidant. And sometimes they're just so angry with their avoidance. They're angry, like they push you away, like, why are you bringing this up again? I don't want to talk about this. We've already talked about this. But it's really avoidant. They're avoiding difficult conversations. They're avoiding feeling that feeling. Like by asking these questions, you're putting them into that state of having to feel. They haven't processed it. They just keep stuffing the guilt, the shame, the sadness, the hurt. And by asking these questions, it's bringing it up and they don't want to feel it. So they avoid it. The other reason they avoid is because they might be people pleasers as well. And they don't want to see you hurt. It's not coming across that way, but they don't want to see you hurt because when they see you hurt, it makes them more guilty. It makes them feel worse about themselves. But really, if you could just address the issue, they will eventually feel better. It's almost like you have to feel worse before you feel better. You got to get the mess out and just like, get it all out, get those emotions out, and then we can start sifting through them, start to feel better, start to process them. So avoidant, saying the past is the past, I don't want to bring it up. That kind of avoidance can be there. So we have low self-esteem, sadness, lack of emotional intelligence. This 4th characteristic is avoidant. The 5th one, we gotta get this tough guy mentality. Sometimes that happens too. I can do it on my own. I don't need to talk to a therapist. A therapist is just going to side with you anyway, like just got to muscle through, just suck it up and keep moving through. And that can be role modeled from their childhood, just kind of that lack of emotional intelligence, this tough guy mentality of I can deal with it on my own. It happened, it's in the past, just keep on going. The 6th one really is like self-centered, really, almost like on a narcissistic level, but not necessarily diagnosed as narcissistic, but that self-centered, prioritizing their own needs, like I feel this way, or I was unhappy in the marriage, you didn't talk to me, or you shut me out, or you weren't meeting my needs, like very self-centered, almost trying to justify what they did, like you were pushing me away, or you weren't doing this, so that's why I did this. Feeling entitled, like I needed more attention, I needed more affection, and you didn't meet those needs. So saying this maybe without communicating in the best way. So there's often a lack of communication, lack of understanding their emotions throughout this. Last one, number 7, impulsive. And then I'm going to talk about a couple other things, but really impulsive here. Like that's that chasing that feeling, chasing the addiction. Like they're not happy. So they chase this feeling and it's very impulsive. It's like almost like a drug where you say, I'm not going to drink, but you go have a drink and it just temporarily really makes you feel better because it helps push down those feelings or give you the endorphins you need. How neuroscience comes into this is if you're not feeling great, you're not feeling good about yourself, what happens is you have this neurochemical, it's like an emotion in your body. It literally, like a thought creates an emotion. So if you have the thought that I'm just so sad, nobody loves me, I'm not good enough at this. So that thought comes through and it creates an emotion. Often people aren't always aware of the thought. They just all of a sudden feel the emotion. Like, I don't like the feeling, which then leads to a habit or behavior. So we have thoughts creating emotions, which are neurochemicals. Literally your brain has this thought, travels down a neural pathway, and then your body's like, floods you with them. That's why they call it flooding. All of a sudden you have like anger. Sometimes you even feel like the warmth or just like the energy wash over you. And you're flooded. It's a neurochemical that's being flooded through your body. So you can't stop it. Thought created it. And so that's why they say through thought alone, you can change your life. But there's more to it. There's like a step above it. We can get into that another time or watch some of my other videos. But that feeling that they get, they don't like it, which then creates the habit behavior. 60,000 thoughts a day. We can't be aware of them all. And they're all producing different emotions. And so we just don't like the way it feels. So then we kind of get in a habit. A habit is the behavior just happens without us thinking about it. You feel really nervous, you start to bite your nails. And eventually you just start biting your nails when you feel nervous. It's like the body feels the neurochemical, feeling the nervous, and then the habit just starts biting your nails. And so this impulsive piece is what comes through as a 7th characteristic. All right, I also wanted to go into this as well. What's the difference between older people and younger people having affairs, and why do they actually do it? So young, like, I don't know where we even want to put young, but like kind of in that 30s, maybe even early 40s, maybe even more the 30s. Like they're just chasing a feeling quite often. Just this immature, impulsive, like, yeah, I'll put 20s and 30s, impulsive, like, way of handling their relationship, not handling it very maturely, just making poor decisions. Sometimes it can come from the friend group that they're in, hanging out with people that are still single, maybe getting divorced, and having that influence of them around. Maybe the way they talk about women, they talk about relationships, respect of women. Also just maybe that lack of commitment. So that's kind of like the young affair. An older person who has an affair, often kind of like I said, the 40s, 50s, 60s. What happens is there's sometimes a midlife crisis, and that's when it's like everything they've been running from just kind of hits them. They're like, I'm not the person I want to be. I'm not happy. I've been doing everything I'm supposed to be. I got married. I have kids. I have a job. I have a career. Really good life, but really, like, I'm empty on the inside. So they start to seek out validation and attention elsewhere, maybe trying to even recapture their youth, try to make up for lost time, maybe even feeling like emotionally disconnected from their wife and using that as an opportunity to really connect with someone else. So yeah, there could be boredom. I don't see this a ton, but maybe some boredom with their partner going elsewhere, but I don't see that one a ton. It's really this like seeking out validation, needing some justification in their life. Why? Like, how do I get happiness? So that validation, needing that self-esteem, maybe they feel undervalued, even though people are like telling them they're doing great or getting promotions, but they don't feel value within the inside. Sometimes they can even feel like a fraud. And also sometimes an affair, like a person that's a little bit older, that midlife crisis, but often it can be spurred on by like a life-changing things. The kids are graduating, or there's a death, or there's a retirement, or a massive job change, or things within life, like health-wise, financial, that are happening. So I see that happen. And then another question someone recently asked me too was like, when do people come to you? Are they coming like right after the discovery day? Often people come and find me after they've done couples counseling or individual therapy. And I wish they'd find me sooner. I really do. Like, women come to me after a year, 3 years, even 5 years of pain that they've been enduring. And the thing is, what's so different about what I do is I'm using neuroscience. I don't need to know exactly how your day's been. I really don't. I just need to know, what emotion are you feeling and what triggered you. I'm feeling really sad. I'm feeling really angry because I can't stop thinking about why he did this. Why would he do this to me if he loved me? And so that's what I need to know. I need to know, what hamster wheel are you on today and what's the emotion, so we can figure out how to release that little neuron that keeps trying down the neural pathway. So I work with clients who often come to me later, but coming to me sooner, we can really nip this in the butt. Because what happens with counseling? Counseling has a place, because often that's the traditional way of going. Go to couples counseling, go to individual therapy. You show up once a week, every 2 weeks, and you talk, you cry, you might feel better. You might be given some strategies like go breathe and do a little bit of journaling, take a bath, go for a nice walk. And that temporarily calms the nervous system. But once the thoughts come back, they're still there. Like, I want to like dig those out of your brain. And we use like neuroscience and hypnosis, and we go back to the memories that created these thoughts, the thoughts of he doesn't love me. And so that's seeing the behaviors, the times when he would show up late, or the times where he wouldn't give you a hug goodbye, or times where he seemed really distant. We go back to those memories and we reprogram them. Can't change them, but we neutralize them so that we can see that they're in the past. So then when we can see they're in the past, we have new neurons that are firing thoughts of, I can see today that he's caring more. I can see today that he's trying more. Yes, I can see in the past how he didn't love me the way I needed to, but that's not who I see today. It changes new thoughts, which creates new thoughts, which creates new emotions. And that's how we're doing it, very simply, instead of this talking every couple of weeks. And I support my clients every single day, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, which is what gets them results, because I know every single day what they're thinking, what they're feeling, and we're constantly rewiring the brain to create a new reality. So that's a question I get asked, is how often do they come? They come, usually clients come to me when they're really at rock bottom. They've been suffering with intrusive thoughts, these images of their partner with someone else, images of where they've been with their partner. There's extreme distress, sadness, and grief. Another thing too is, what percentage of wives really stay? It's a really good question. So when I work with the women I work with, 88% of women, when they leave my program, are in a place where their marriage is saved, or they're in a place where they are on the right path to really healing and fixing their marriage. What about the other 12%? Well, what happens is 88% are good. They're on a great path. 9% they'd leave on their own. They're like, I deserve better than this. I don't want to be in this marriage anymore. And they come from a great place of clarity, being like, this is what I need to do. And then there's about 3%, and this is very few, but there are a few where the husband he's gone, he's done. And that's what leads to divorce. But like 88% is really good in terms of saving your marriage, having the skills, the strength to really repair your marriage. Another question I was asked too recently was, do affairs happen over different demographics? Like, is it a specific demographic in terms of age or social economic status? And like the primary women I work with are in their 30s, 40s, 50s, and early 60s. And typically I work with women that are kind of in this middle class, even upper class. So, but then I work with other women as well that are in like other social economic situations. So it happens everywhere. And the characteristics that I talked about husbands having low self-esteem, sadness, lack of emotional intelligence, avoidant, this tough guy, this self-centered, this impulsivity, isn't exclusive to a certain age or a certain demographic. Yeah, we talked a little bit about older affairs versus younger person affairs, but for the most part, it's always this like deep-seated low self-esteem, avoidance, or this lack of emotional like intelligence, avoidant, and impulsivity. Yeah, it's everywhere. It really is. Next one here too, like, is it really just about husbands acting poorly, acting badly? Or is the wife contributing to this at all? And this is a tough question because I'm always like with my clients, like, you didn't cause this. This wasn't your fault. What was missing from him was strong communication. If he's unhappy, that's one thing. But if he's unhappy and then stepping outside the marriage without talking about it, that is not on you. And so yeah, dynamics of the marriage can contribute to it, but bottom line is he had no right to step outside the marriage without your permission. And so there really are no excuses. Ultimately, there's no excuses for this, but a husband may step out because he's feeling emotionally neglected. He may feel like you're distant or resentful. He may feel like I just said kind of this like almost abandonment, especially if there's other things playing out within the marriage, like other stressors like health, wealth, family crisis stuff. Lack of sexual intimacy can also lead to that too. But again, communication needs to be part of this. And if he doesn't have that emotional intelligence, if he has a behavior of avoidance, if he has some deep-seated hurt and pain, that's what can lead them to heading outside the marriage. If there's constant conflict, right? They're going elsewhere to get the validation that instead of being told that you keep doing this, this, and this, they then go elsewhere to really seek out that validation. And then also the roles that you play in a marriage, the masculine versus feminine. Sometimes the wife, she's got to do everything, like not everything, but she will feel like she has to be, and this isn't every case, but sometimes I have women come to me and they're like, I feel like I take care of the kids, I'm working full time, I'm in this very masculine energy, and sometimes we just need to soften and be in that feminine, more nurturing, caring, like not so much almost like this controlling, this needs to get done. And that can be very difficult if you have a partner who's not stepping up or you're asking constantly for help and you're not getting it. Because what happens is over time, when you keep asking, you then just feel this like resentment build. And after time, that resentment just turns into feeling rejected, right? Which then turns into just completely shutting down. Let's see, what other questions did I have recently? I wonder if there's anything else here. Yeah, so what's the first steps? Really the first step of if your husband really, you feel like he's cheating, is really to get your thoughts in order. If you really suspect, like through behavior changing in his patterns, like as humans, we love patterns. We really do. We love patterns. So if we sense that he's not like getting up at the same time, he's coming home later, he's wearing different clothes, he's working out more, like whatever the behavior change is, he seems more distant. That's flag number one. Red flag number one. But from there, really prep yourself. Like, what are your feelings? Like, really get in touch with yourself. You just don't want to jump into this. What are your feelings? What questions do you have? So preparing these questions, but then also preparing the possible answers you may get, which could be complete denial. He may just avoid the question, may say like, that's ridiculous, I'm not doing that. So just preparing the questions, the potential answers you might get. So this is just very logical. And then next is looking for evidence. And I don't say go hunting for it, but if there's anything that you want to pull out, just kind of keeping it. And then next is try and find the time and place to bring this up with him. Really, when do you want to bring this up? Not when he's tired, not when he's hungry, not when you're tired, not when you're hungry, not when there's kids around. Like, it's tough. It's really tough if you have young children when to bring this up, especially if it's like at night and the kids are already in bed and the conversation turns into an hour or two. The next one is you want to come from a place of curiosity and one question at a time, just one question. Like, for example, like, how happy are you right now? Scale of 1 to 10. Or how happy are you with our marriage? Scale of 1 to 10. Am I meeting your needs? Scale of 1 to 10. You seem really distant. And I'm just wondering, is there something like going on, like with work or health or finances? Like you may want to pull that in there, but it's very open-ended. You don't want to ask questions that are closed, like yes or no, but sometimes when you do open-ended questions, like I don't know. So then the Likert scale of 1 to 10 is really helpful. Do you feel connected to me physically? Scale of 1 to 10. So ask one question at a time. I just gave you a ton, but maybe just one question. You don't want to bombard. You can kind of read the vibe of if they're shutting down, they're tired, they're exhausted by this. Avoid accusations. I feel, that's when we bring in the I feel statements. Like, I feel like this is happening, or I've had this gut feeling of this worry that maybe you're seeing someone else. And just even just expressing that feeling, not necessarily are you doing this. You could be quite blunt. Like, I feel like this is happening. Something's off, and my mind keeps going to that. You're cheating. Can you tell me more about your behavior and why you're so distant? What's going on in your head? Gotta listen. That's the trickiest part, just sitting there listening. Grab a notepad and start taking down notes. That can help you, like, because you're feeling flooded all these emotions. And that's another point too. If your heart rate gets over 100 beats per minute, if you have a smartwatch, both of you need to shut it down. You need to be like, okay, we just need to take a few breaths, get some fresh air, take a moment and collect yourself, kind of reflect on how you're feeling. And then once your heart rate's better in like 10-15 minutes, put a repair time on it. I need to take a little bit of a break. I'm feeling flooded. Can we talk about this again in 10-15 minutes? So smartwatches, if your heart rate gets to over 100, Gottman Institute, like Gurus in Marriage, that's what they would suggest. And yeah, expressing your needs. And then last one, getting help, really asking for help. Like I said, the traditional go-to is couples counseling individual. I truly think couples counseling does not work until one of you's done a deeper dive. If not, it just turns into arguments a lot of times. Oh, I just lost the light. It turns into arguments. Yeah, it can make you feel worse after a session, which isn't great. And you only have an hour. So if you are going to do couples, I suggest like an intensive, like something that's like 2-3 hours or even a day, just to really get deep, because if not, you're just talking about surface issues. It's always kind of the same feeling, same belief of you don't help me, you don't love me, what are you doing? I can't trust you, but it's a different scenario. So I truly believe if you have any questions, come see me. We use hypnosis, we use neuroscience. We are digging into the brain and truly changing women's lives, couples' lives, families in a matter of 12 weeks. So anyway, it was great seeing everyone. Thank you so much for joining. If you have any questions, reach out anytime. Send myself a DM or send us an email. We're always here to help. All right, bye everyone.